Welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with your host, Dr. Kate. This is where your journey to burnout recovery starts. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like work has become unmanageable? Join me and my guests for open and honest conversations about burnout recovery from the comfort of the front porch. I am here to help you build your resilience and prepare you for burnout in a whole new way through a variety of perspectives. Move past the idea that burnout can only be addressed by avoidance and work to integrate recovery into your daily life. Relax, take a breath. The From Burnout to Recovery show starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio and a member of the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group. I am your host, Dr. Kate, and as always, I am super excited to welcome you to the show today. As you are enjoying the show, remember to hit that subscribe button and follow me at Dr. Kate Steiner on Instagram. Today, we are being joined by our guest, Elliot Barnett, and he's going to share more with us about mental fitness training. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more myself, but also have you all hear more about this aspect and how it can help you in your burnout recovery. Elliot is a research scientist, public speaker, innovator, and entrepreneur. He combined his background in technology and cognitive science to create a new form of psychotherapy, cognitive response therapy, based on three foundational scientific theories. That research empowered the creation of the first self-directed but guided mental health program, mental fitness training, delivered to you in a revolutionary framework at My Core Insights. Let's make mental health affordable and accessible for everyone. Elliot, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you joining us today.
I'm really excited to be here. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, as always, and what we always, I love to get a little more sense from our guests is if you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your own experience with burnout and your journey to recovery.
Sure. So I'm probably a little bit of a non-traditional interviewee when it relates to this. We're getting to know each other a little bit. You might get a sense of the punchline of that. If you asked anybody that knows me for more than a few minutes, I have a little bit of a relentless nature about me. So I might not be the traditional burnout. To me, burnout is when I am focusing on something that is not my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to the point that the stress level within me is getting beyond the healthy levels. Or I'm spending a lot of my time on things that I have to do, which are taking me away from the things that I really want to do. Right? And I know we've all experienced that in our lives. Of course, I've gone through my trying times. I had a period of time in college that I took on a double degree in physics and computer science, 2 out of the 3 degrees that they said to do not combine for a good reason. And I took that on as a challenge instead of a warning. And I don't really remember my junior year except sleeping under the desk in the computer lab. So yes, I do feel like junior year kind of pushed me past the limits that I thought were possible. I've also had times in my life that when we first moved to a place in outside of Silicon Valley, it was a pretty difficult time of traveling to and from work 4 hours a day or more, getting up at the crack of dawn, fighting Bay Area traffic, just trying to. It was a very difficult time for me and my family. I could feel those moments that I was bumping up against my limits, but always felt like I could push past them. Mm-hmm. But to me, it was more not as much of feeling like I was burnt out, that I didn't have the energy. It was that I felt like this caged lion, right? Because I so wanted to do the things that I wanted to get done in my life. I was an entrepreneur stuck in a job guy's body for too long. And, I was, having to feed my family, put the roof over my head. I was making a really good salary, but my passion, and that was in technology, my passion was cognitive science. And I really just wanted to build and revolutionize the mental health industry. So there was always this push pull. And when that push pull gets to the point that the push is stronger than the pull, that gets really difficult. So I'm not necessarily a traditional burnout person, but it's more about the passion within me and really being able to uncage that passion towards something that I really want to do with myself.
Yeah. I really appreciate that perspective and hearing that, because I really connect with that. And I think a lot of our listeners would too, in that aspect that burnout doesn't necessarily have to be like this chaotic stress cycle, or feeling, you know, that immediate stress as soon as you wake up in the morning and those kind of things. I think what you were talking about, that connection and, maybe being in a workspace that we're not passionate about, is a huge indicator for a lot of people that they may be in a burnout space, but that may not be what they're calling it.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think so often we're more of a byproduct or a calamity
Mhm.
of our life. We're
Yeah.
not living intentionally, right? And yeah, if you look at it, I always ask this to people that when I do public talks, I ask, how many events have you had in your life? And they say, well, I have no idea. Well, how many do you really remember? They say, oh, a tiny fraction, right?
Mm.
But every single event in your life has created who you are as a person. But we weren't intentional about that. So then we wake up one day and we say, what am I doing? How am I spending my time? And I say that very specifically because we don't realize. I do a talk about the 3/8. We all have 3/8 in a day, right? Hopefully we're sleeping one of those eights, because we need that, right? We need to that we don't necessarily as scientists know exactly why we sleep, but we know what some of the activities are, and it's very important. So many of us are spending another 8 at least, in a job, but that leaves another 8. What are we doing with that, right? And so often we get busy being busy because we are mostly just a byproduct of our lives, a byproduct or a consequence of our past. And we're not living intentionally. This is one thing that I address in mental fitness training. One of the big focuses is to build that healthy and strong foundation. So you start to draw a line and step over it and start living more intentionally. So to me, a lot of the burnout is because we aren't living intentionally, and we get so frustrated because we're just in these what I call response cycles, right? So we're just in these negative, a lot of times, cycles in our lives, and we're not even aware of them. We're
Mhm.
reacting to life situations instead of living proactively in our life.
Yeah.
Does that make
Uh,
sense?
I love the concept of the 3/8, and that, certainly, yeah, the 1/8 is sleep, and that is super important. The 1/8 is your work, and that is maybe something you don't have as much control over. And then that third 8, what are you doing with that? And how do you intentionally, live that? When you talk about those response cycles, how might someone recognize that they are in a response cycle, maybe for that third 8, to live a more intentional life?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, the whole idea is to overcome, and this is one of the main features of my research, was around the introspection delusion. We're just not as aware of ourselves as we would really need to be to start living differently, right? We all have these blind spots, so most of my research was focused around language and the language that we use. So I really empower people to be much more aware of the language that we're using on a daily basis, because that can be the warning, right?
Mm, mhm.
Uh, are we using a lot of generalizations? Always, never. I can't, I would, I should, I could. I try. Only if. These types of victim language, self-limiting language. I have 15 categories in mental fitness training that we identified, and they're all centered around language constructs. So I really encourage people to be very aware of the language that we're using. We don't choose the thoughts that come up from our subconscious. Okay. If you could choose your thought, you'd have to have it before you had it.
Yeah.
Right. So they
Yeah.
just show up, and we don't want to get swept away by them. Right? Thoughts are different than thinking. Thinking means you're starting to become mindfully intervening in that thought that comes up and the emotions that come up. But what precedes that? Well, what precedes that is the sensations in our body,
Mm, mhm.
right? There are physiological changes going on in your body all the time. Your subconscious is whispering to you, just not paying attention. I talk to a lot of people with anxiety disorders and panic attacks. Well, what happens there is that you're not listening when your body's been whispering, so it starts talking to you, and then it starts yelling a little bit,
Mhm.
and then it's shouting. You're not listening until it's shouting. So then what does it do next time? Well, it's not going to whisper anymore. It's going to stop talking. What happens the next time? It's going to start yelling right away. Then you say, well, it came out of nowhere. My friend, it really didn't,
Mhm.
right? We want to stop pushing that down towards really getting in tune with the physiological changes in our bodies. I ask people, how many breaths do you take in a day? And they say, well, I have no idea. A lot. How many are you aware of? How many times did your heart rate change? A lot. How many are you aware of? Right? So we want to stop paying
Mhm.
attention to our bodies. The more in tune we are to that, the more that we'll be aware of the thoughts that come up, and the more that we stop mindfully intervening in those thoughts. That's when you start to recognize the cycles that you're in. You
Yeah.
start to mindfully intervene. You're never going to control your subconscious. It does a lot on your behalf, but you can influence it and you can train it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So with that and about, with that training, tell us just a little more about your mental fitness training and what are some good starting points for people?
Yeah, of course. So, the whole journey that I bring somebody through is first to overcome. I kind of talk about it like this. First, you sort of define, discover, restructure, and then you strengthen. So define first, you take a stab at it. Like, who do you think you are as a person,
Mhm.
right? Then we start to really discover who you are, and I have some intellectual property that was born out of the research that I did to focus on that language, and I start to build these associations to reveal a lot of the good parts of who you are, these beliefs and values and all these, but also the not so good parts. We all have them, right? What I call
Mhm.
your viruses. And we start to build those associations so you can start to use what you have within yourself to counteract the negative, right? So you start to become more aware of those things. Once we get through some of that, then we start to get into more of the restructuring. And that's when I start to teach you how to identify what I call cognitive catalysts.
Mm.
So there are triggering events in our life. A catalyst, what speeds up a reaction,
Yeah.
right? So we all have those events in our lives, and that can lead to burnout if we are not mindful of those catalysts in our lives, and we're not aware of the cycles that we're following. We're not even paying attention to our own physiology. We don't know what to do with the thoughts and emotions that come up. We get swept away by them as opposed to just saying, hey, there's a thought. Interesting. Thank you, subconscious, for giving me a warning. Thank you, subconscious, for letting me know something might be wrong. We get into a panic mode and we get swept away by it, right?
Mm.
That can lead to burnout. So the more that the journey that I bring you through is to discover who you really are and start to really identify opportunities to intervene and start to train your subconscious to serve up more positive thoughts, positive emotions, and positive cycles for yourself. Again, you're never going to control these things. And one of the things with burnout, I think really is really important is the fact that we try to control too much in our lives. We try to
Mhm.
control people. We try to control events. We're outcome focused, right? Instead of process focused, right? We control two and only two things in our lives: how we prepare to respond and how we actually respond. That's it. How you prepare to respond and how you actually respond. So prepare ahead of time. This is all about building a healthy and strong
Mhm.
foundation. If you are building a building on a faulty foundation and then you're patching the cracked walls, that's just symptom focus. Let's get to the healthy and strong foundation and then build, right?
Mm. Yeah. I love that. It's so much of what you've mentioned connects so well to the model that I developed in regard to burnout recovery. So that the aspect of burn events, and when we ignore them, they blow up in our face a little bit, create that cycle of burnout. And I think the piece in you talking about really how are we recognizing and then ending the stress cycle that burn events, that these catalysts, impact in our lives, and really connected with that preparation piece, right? And the importance of preparing for all of this by being able to recognize it, but also how does our general wellness impact that aspect and our ability to prepare for that? So definitely,
Absolutely.
yeah, just I'm Those that can see me nodding along. Those that are listening, just know that I'm over here nodding my head right along with these thoughts.
Well, here's the thing. Balance is, we're always trying to achieve this thing called balance,
Mhm.
and we're chasing it. But to me, there's a difference between bumping up against your limits and then backing off from them,
Mm.
leaning into them. Because if we consistently turn away from the hard, we feel stressed, we feel anxious, we feel fear, we feel whatever the emotion is, and we immediately cower and we immediately turn away. We are training our subconscious that you think the world is a scary place
Mm.
consistently. Your subconscious is always paying attention to what you think of yourself. I say think because the subconscious isn't thinking. That's not the thinking part of our brain.
Mhm.
Okay, the subconscious is serving up the best information that it can. Our brains evolved for three and only three things: to protect you, to seek opportunity, and to rejuvenate. That's it. So your subconscious primary role is to protect you. So you're going to remember negative events much more than positive because it's much more useful for your subconscious, for
Mm.
you to
Mhm.
protect you, right?
Yeah.
So we rely on that to protect us, but we evolved in a dramatically different environment. Most of us aren't being chased by lions anymore, I hope,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's mostly situations that our subconscious is warning us about a threat that's not really real.
Mhm.
So it's our job to be mindful about when we hit our limits, when we think we've hit our limits, and when we start to lean into those a little bit. I can't stand when people say, I got to give 110%. My friends, you're 100% of a person. Okay. If you want
Mhm.
to do more, then you need to redefine what that 100 is.
Yes.
Okay. The way to do that is to consistently lean into those experiences that you're having mindfully, right? And see and pay attention to your physiology, pay attention to the thoughts and emotions that are coming up, and use those as information, not to get overwhelmed by, but to just use it as great information, and then respond proactively to your life with intention. That makes sense?
Absolutely. I'm curious in your thoughts and in some of the ways, or if you have any examples on how someone might lean into that a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I get a lot of questions around anxiety disorders.
Mhm.
So let's just take an example there, right? I people that have anxiety around crowds and interact with people, public speaking, all these things. What I always say is people get into those situations, their stress level goes up, and then they say, well, I need to learn to deal with this better. Well, that's not when you do that. Okay. When you've already got past that point, or you're stressed, you've had a difficult week, and then you try to go engage in something, right?
Mhm.
You're setting yourself and your subconscious and everything else up for failure. Do this mindfully and intentionally. Seek opportunities proactively in situations that you know a catalyst is going to be
Mhm.
available to you. I say that I'm using these words intentionally, available to you, because you have to look at this as an opportunity to grow.
Mhm.
Problems, challenges, struggles, those are opportunities. Pain is inevitable in life, misery is a choice. We have to start accepting that things are going to be challenging, and we have to proactively and mindfully seek those opportunities out. And so
Mhm.
if you have issues with crowds, don't ever put out criteria that you don't have control over. Oh, I'll go to that party as long as so and so doesn't say something mean to me. Well, you don't control other people. You can say, I will go there as long as there's only 5 people. I'll go there for 5 minutes, but then I'll leave. But I'll be 100% willing to accept how I feel and the physiological changes and the stress levels. I will be 100% willing to accept how I feel for those 5 minutes. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Intentional and mindfully lean into those experiences.
Mhm. I really like that intentionality and the piece of that this is you have to look at it as a growth opportunity and frame it in, utilizing that language and framing it in your mind in that way. I think that is so incredibly important for this work.
That's why the language is so important. When we say something, we have to hear how we are teaching our subconscious. Our subconscious can't decipher the negatives. So when I say, well, I don't want this to happen, Oh, you want that to happen? No, I don't want this to happen. Oh, you want that to happen? That's what your subconscious isn't smart enough to differentiate these things. So when you're focused on what you don't want, your subconscious will likely make that happen intentionally, right? That's what it's serving back to you. So focus on the things that you want. Teach your subconscious what you want in life, right? And then as those things come up from your subconscious, be okay with it. I used the raging river example. Like you're imagining fishing in a raging river. How are you doing? Fun? You're trying to just stand there, not get swept away by the torrent of
Yeah.
water. Mindfulness practice is just getting to the side of the river and fishing from the water bank. You can look at the fish go by, the positive, the not so great, whatever it is. It's okay. You can catch the good, you can let go of the bad, but it's the separation, right? And we also have to remember that a lot of these are labels that exist only because we label them actively. A thought, it doesn't necessarily, I could say a word and have a thought, and you can have the same thought, but we label and identify very differently. We assign different meanings to those, right? So we have to remember that thoughts are just information. How we look at them and label them, that's when the meaning is derived. So we have to be very intentional about the language that we use. Things are hard. Oh my God, that seems scary. Wow, I don't know if I can do that. Well, sure. Okay. Right. You just told yourself 100% that you're not right. So exactly.
Yeah. I think that mindfulness is something that listeners really take with you, and that you just get to the side of the river
Yes.
and take it from there, I think is incredibly impactful. So I'm loving these insights. And if you are too, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share this with others so everyone can hear these important messages. So before we go into our recovery moment, Elliot, what is one piece of advice that you would offer our audience members? Just a quick piece of advice that you would say to them?
So I will reveal a couple things that I think would be really helpful. Take time every day to journal. Pay attention to the language that you use. Don't filter. Don't think about it. Write. Just write every single night if you can. Start to underline once a week the language that you're using. You will start seeing patterns. Okay. And start to be mindful throughout your day the negative language, and it'll be apparent. Of course, go over to mental fitness training, you'll see the 15 cognitive traps, but you will see the negative language. It'll fall right out. Pay attention to that. It can make all the difference in the world, because the more that we start to teach our subconscious that we are positive thinkers, we'll get a positive mindset, and we will be able to start avoiding those burnout moments because we will be living more intentionally. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. And where can our audience members find out more how to work with you?
Of course. So My Core Insights, so mycoreinsights.com. We have a self-directed version of the training. So that is 100% on you. You can go through it on your own. There is also a personalized training version, which actually work directly with me on a bi-weekly basis. At My Core Insights on all the social media platforms, and Instagram and TikTok and all the other social media platforms at My Core Insights. I also speak a lot on Clubhouse. So the Our Mindset community on Clubhouse, head over there. It's a 24/7 room. It's always going on, and I'm a moderator there. So we really pour into others. So I'd really encourage you guys to head over there as well. But yeah, mycoreinsights.com, that's the home of mental fitness training, and super excited to work with you guys when you head over there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Listeners, we're going to transition into our recovery moment. And today is one of my favorite body scans. I call it Sand Human. So make sure you're in a safe space for this recovery moment. And I want you to take a moment to find a comfortable position. And when you're seated or settled, take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let your eyes close if that's comfortable for you. Continue to breathe, finding an easy, soft breath. Fill your lungs with air, and as you release, find a sense of relief with each exhale. As you continue to breathe, feel your body become heavier and heavier, as though each part of your body is being filled with sand. Your feet, your legs, your torso, chest, back, shoulders, your arms, hands, neck, and head all becoming so heavy that you find it hard to lift any part of your body. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And on your next exhale, relax into that weight. Allow it to anchor you. Now imagine that you have a small hole at the base of your spine where all the sand will fall and flow out of your body. As the sand flows out of you, let it take any tension, thoughts that are no longer serving you, or any fears you have with it. As the sand continues to flow out the hole in your back, feel the lightness of your feet and legs, feeling so light that they could almost float away from your body. Now your arms, feel the sand as it flows out of your arms and shoulders, taking all the tension you were holding there with it. Feel the lightness in your head and neck as the sand flows out of your body. Now feel the softness and lightness in your core, chest, and back as the rest of the sand flows out of the hole in your back. Take a deep breath and focus on the relaxed feeling you have at this moment. Remember this space without the tensions from your day. Take one more deep breath, and when you are ready, open your eyes. Remember, for more recovery moments, you can follow me at Dr. Kate Steiner on Instagram and subscribe to the From Burnout to Recovery Show YouTube channel. I am grateful to our guest, Elliot, for joining us. Be sure to reach out and find him at mycoreinsights.com. And I'm grateful to each of you for listening. Thank you for joining us today on the From Burnout to Recovery Show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Kate, and I wish you peace on your journey. Thank you for joining me on the front porch today. If you want to assess your own current level of burnout, be sure to take the Feeling Crispy quiz on my website at liftwellnessconsulting.com. Be well, my friends. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Kate, on the From Burnout to Recovery Show, where you are starting your journey to burnout recovery. You are invited to join me on the front porch every second and fourth Friday of the month on transformationtalkradio.com to continue growing in resilience and integrating recovery into your daily life. If you would like to learn more or find out how to work with me, visit liftwellnessconsulting.com.